flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion to approve December's minutes with the
So moved.
amended, it's not Highway 51, it's 22.
Yeah, there's one boo-boo on there, but we'll fix that.
All right, so moved.
Second.
It's moved properly in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so it is.
Doctor, could they turn the volume up just a little, or do you have a volume, or? Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Like when you're preaching.
Okay.
Or either make me move closer, maybe.
All right. Fairview Missionary Baptist Church.
Good morning. We bring you greetings from the Fairview Missionary Baptist Church. I'm Pastor Stephen Brooks, and we are applying to establish a cemetery for our church. And it will be located directly across in front of our church down at 1278 North Old Canton Road. We purchased some property across from the church, and we would like to establish it in the very back corner of that property, out of the view of everybody. We're in need of a cemetery in that community, and we just ask this board if y'all would please approve that for the church.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Will it be gated?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said directly in front of the Fairview.
Yeah, the property is directly, but you have to go in and go in the back corner out of view.
Okay.
How many members do you have?
I have approximately 100 members.
100. You've had services there, I'm sure, in the past. What have you done for internment?
We have a family there, a big family there, that have their own cemetery established on their own property. In other situations, we used other church cemeteries, but we hadn't had one of our own. And from my understanding, most of those cemeteries now are about full. That's why we're requesting that we be able to establish one for the church and the community.
You say you purchased this land. When did you purchase it?
About 2 years ago.
Years ago. It's pretty
About
land.
right at 9 acres there.
Very pretty land.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I entertain a motion.
I offer motion that we will approve the request of the petition.
I'll second that motion.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So it is.
Abstain. The reason is that this is real pretty land, and it's in the path of growth for residential development. There are subdivisions really close, and there are residential houses all around it. Not that that is a problem, other than it's in the path of growth for residential development. And I'm abstaining because I think there's a better use for that land in accordance with the planning for Madison County. I think that you've got as you said, 9 acres over there, and you're putting the cemetery 1 acre. I guess that's the fenced area that I went by this morning. Is that the fenced area that I saw?
No, it's gonna be on the north side of that fenced area.
Side of that fenced area, okay. Closer to the property line.
Right.
One thing that I'm worried about is that putting it where it is the road, though, comes off Old Canton Road, and
yes,
it will
ma'am.
continue to do so. It may, in the future, prevent you from doing something else with that land, but that's your business. But that's why I'm stating that I think that there's a better use for that land than quasi-public at this point.
The majority approved, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, I did not catch your name.
Pastor Stephen M. Brooks.
Stephen Brooks. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you, board.
Stoke Road, Shell.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Daniel Woodridge. I am the architect and representative for the owner on the project. We made our initial visit a few months back, requesting an approval for a site plan design for a C-store there at the corner of Stokes and Livingston. I know we had some requests or some issues or concerns on the piece of property from the citizens locally. We're back with that. We're addressing those issues. We'd like to go over them with you today, and again ask for approval on this site plan. And I think one of the major concerns at the last meeting was the property actually zoned C2. I think Andy and Scott have checked that out and reviewed that and agree that it is C2 property, that is properly zoned C2, which is the zoning that's required for this particular use. So, landscaping, I know we had a request that we provide extra landscaping. We've gone back and made that change on the landscape plan. You should have that in front of you, that extra landscaping that we provided. If we need to, if there's any questions about it, we can discuss that. Other issues, we didn't change the exterior of the building. I know there is a potential overlay that might, and it's not in place yet, but might be in place at a later time. With it not being in place, we have no idea what their architectural desires would be. But we feel that we've got a building design that fits well in the area, that's kind of a mixture between what's going on out at Livingston, what's happening in Flora, and what you might expect that would happen in between. So we feel like we got a building that would set well in that site and with the community. Other issues that was brought up, the last one was some lighting on the site. We're going to use a directional lighting that shines down. We're not going to let or pollute the properties that are adjacent to us. Our light won't leave our site. Obviously, we can't control automobile lighting that would be coming down the street, but that's there anyway. That's something that's already there. So we feel that we're going to take care of that. Our light will remain on our site. So if we have any other questions, be more than welcome to address them. Oh, I guess one of the other things I didn't speak about was the traffic on 22. And we've talked with Mr. Kaiser, who's a traffic engineer, and he emailed me he has studied that intersection, and he has emailed me his opinion on the site and on the intersection. I provided y'all with a copy of his email. Y'all can read what he had to say about that. We do have a traffic count for that.
I do have, just for clarification, so I see in Mr. Kaiser's email, he says that recommendations were made in the December 2021 report to improve the alignment of 22 by reducing the angle of the horizontal curves. Did anything happen forward from there, or?
No, he made recommendations to the state of Mississippi, and it would be their obligation to make those changes, but changes have not been made. But I can show you a copy of the recommendation if you'd like to see the drawing of it.
Can I see that, please?
You can.
Thank you so much.
The blues were 22s running now. This recommendation would be to kind of straighten it out. We would all love to see that, but
Right.
that's up to the state of Mississippi.
Right.
So they would take this out, that part of the road would just go away. Our site right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right here.
You want to see this?
Yeah.
This is where it runs now.
Let's go down here.
Okay. So the blue is where it runs now, and they're suggesting that we take all this out, and it just runs here.
Really?
Right.
That would be an ideal situation, but again, that's something up to the state of Mississippi
Thank you for
to
that.
do. You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
That's the church.
Straight.
That's just a recommendation, right?
That's
not-
his recommendation to the state of Mississippi, yes, sir. And he is in North Mississippi today doing business and couldn't be with us, and that's the reason we have an email from him.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we hear from the opposition.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
John Arthur Eves. I want to first thank this board for the ability to live in Madison County and the great job. I understand the complexities of issues before this board and appreciate the great responsibility you have and the decisions you've made in the past. And I'm privileged to live here. I'm here today on behalf of myself. I've also got Leo Jackson, who is the property manager of Andover Subdivision. My father developed Andover Subdivision, I think 10, 15 years ago. And in that time, he promised the residents or the people that moved there that it would be a place of serenity, a place where they could have a respite from the chaos of urban life. Most of those people have moved from all over this area, but they love to come to Andover. And in that time, I have lived in Andover myself. Love the countryside there and the vision of living a pretend rural life, although it's not quite real rural, but it gives that peaceful and serenity. And so I would like to tell you that after surveying the people at Andover, I'm here compelled to speak that of the over 100 residents there, they are really opposed to this store. And they feel like that there are 3 other locations, one in Livingston, one in Flora, one in Kearney Park, that already service their needs. And they would like to protect sort of the feeling they have in this community. And so that being said, I just wanted to ask you to consider that as you make your decision here about allowing this to go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rouser and Board. My name's Toby Trowbridge. As when we left the last time, I believe we had talked about y'all were going to investigate to see if this, and in fact was C2. All of my records show that it is not C2. From 1961, it was never rezoned due to the fact there was no Board of Supervisors in writing that it was rezoned in the board meetings. No planning and zoning board meeting that it was ever rezoned, and no chancery clerk dockets or deeds that it was ever rezoned. Now, I may stand corrected. That's why I thought y'all were going to investigate it. If so, I stand corrected. I'd like for the board to tell me where the attorney and Mr. Weeks found that it was in any kind of minutes.
And go ahead, Scott. Mr. President and board members, based on, the research and everything, the maps from roughly the 1960s, I actually have one from the 70s right here, depict that property as C2 throughout to today. And, that's just the information that we found.
Well, let me read you an opinion from the Attorney General's office, 2014, opinion number 00493. Seeing how these 3 things that it says in the minutes or board minutes that has to be done were not done, where I tried to show you where the county just put dots on the map that it could possibly be zoned one day, but the owners of the property ask for zoned. The opinion from the Attorney General's office states, a county cannot amend this zoning ordinance by merely updating the official zoning map. The county must comply with the notice and hearing requirements of section 17-1-17 and also present clear and convincing evidence that either a mistake has been made in the original zoning ordinance or that the character of the neighborhood has changed so much since the original zoning to justify rezoning and the public need to exist for rezoning. I see no way that those 3 things were not met. The Board of Supervisors didn't have it in their minutes. The planning and zoning didn't have it in their minutes, and there's not a deed, and I alluded to that by John Anderson, thinks his is C2. Is the map that Mr. Weeks presented shows John Anderson, which is in that intersection, as C2, and his 116 acres still shows that it's A1 part of his homestead. And I just don't see how all of a sudden, back in the 70s, a map comes up showing that it's C2 without just what it says right here in the Attorney General's opinion. And I just ask in writing that those 3 be shown to me before we move forward. Also, may I did not get exactly, you talked to MDOT, correct?
I didn't talk to MDOT, no, sir. I talked to Mr. Kaiser, who is a traffic engineer.
Okay, and, okay, so he does not work for MDOT. All right, I don't know what his opinion was, but as my opinion as Sheriff of Madison County retired, trust me, you're going to have a fatality at that intersection, trying to turn off of Highway 22. And you ask any lawman, including Scott Weeks that worked with the Sheriff's Department, what's going to happen right there at that intersection. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you're finna to create a severe problem out there if you don't do something. First, I think we need to abide by the law and show me where it's C2. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But before you let somebody, especially coming from west to east, make a 120-degree turn back to the northwest, I think you're looking for trouble. That's my opinion. I don't know about who this man is with the made opinion. My opinion is you better do a traffic study and straighten 22 out or something before you start all that traffic in there. Any questions? Or can anybody answer me that map would adhere to this opinion of the Attorney General's office? Just
I don't have any questions for you, Sheriff, but I will. I'll certainly give my thoughts.
okay.
I don't know the as far as this Attorney General's opinion that you've provided. Obviously, I think you've read it properly, but I don't know the particulars of the situation with the underlying zoning or the previous zoning of the piece of property that was at issue here. But I think what Scott and I are saying here in Madison County, first of all, I don't doubt that you are correct that there may never have been a request by any property owner to rezone. But I think what Scott and I are saying is that from the inception here, there was a time when there was no zoning, period, whatsoever. There was just, Madison County was property. Well, in the 60s or whenever that was, when there was a decision made to create zoning districts, the Board of Supervisors took it upon itself to create those and created those districts and the maps that would correspond to those districts, which is what I think you're talking about, the green dots. But as far back as we can find, now understanding Madison County in the 60s and Madison County today, two different time periods, right. Certainly. I think as far as record keeping and minutes and all that, we're still not perfect, but we've come a long way from where we were. But I think what our opinion is that from the outset, there was raw property. Then all of a sudden, in whatever 61 or whatever I think it was you said, when there were zoning districts created, this particular property was zoned or designated as C2, that was indicated on zoning maps and has been indicated on zoning maps. And as far back as we can find to the 70s here and coming forward, every single time that a zoning map is adopted or brought forward, the property has been C2. So let me just give you an example. Let's just say that in 1975, somebody had come to the Planning and Zoning Office and said, hey, I want to put a piece of commercial building on this property. I want to see what it's zoned. The administrator or whoever was in charge at that time would have gone and looked and said, this property is C2. Oh, okay, great, move forward. So there would have never been any need or it brought to anybody's attention to petition to have that rezoned as C2 because it was already zoned as Z2 on our official zoning map. I think that's the best answer we can give. You know, and like Mr. Eves said, we do have a difficult job here.
Oh, yeah.
We have to take into consideration the wants and the needs and the concerns of the citizens that live out there. And we have to balance that with the rights and the wants and the needs of the developer that has
Sure.
purchased the property and wants to build the building. So I guess kind of what I'm saying is, and I'm sure you understand, sometimes there's never a perfect answer. So we have to go with the next best answer. And that's my next best opinion
Yes.
as to this piece of property.
Well, in the job I used to have, there was no black and white, or it got thrown out of court. I do agree with you having a zoning map that shows that in the 70 or 71. I do not agree with you that you had one before that. It just had a purple dot right there at an intersection that, and it said on there that it may be deemed by the owner, you know, rezone it C2. And I just ask that y'all, I guess, would follow what the Board of Supervisors put out in 1961 forward, or change it legally.
I think we are following what they've put out in 61 forward as C2.
So,
As far
I'm-
back as we can find,
yeah,
Sheriff, is what
for
I'm
for
saying.
clarification, somebody just drew red at an intersection and that deemed it C2?
No, I'm not saying that. Well, yes.
I mean, I'm, not being in this field, you're going to explain to me. Who deemed that C2 in red?
The Board of Supervisors,
Where does it show that?
by adopting an official zoning map and re-adopting and bringing that forward every single time we've had an official zoning map.
So that must have been why this Attorney General's opinion was written. What year did they do that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't specify that date. And what I'm saying, the difference in here that I don't know is that here, there was clearly a permit issued for property as C2, as M2 or whatever this is.
Yeah.
And then just all of a sudden arbitrarily, it was updated and zoned to something different, if I'm reading that right.
Okay, so,
I'm saying here is that from the first time there was ever any
Right.
zoning designation put on that property, period, ever, in other words, there's never been a time where we could find a zoning map where it showed that it was A1. And then the next year it went to C2 and there was nobody.
what do those two parcels show as on their land taxes?
Now, that's a completely different matter. You've got, the way taxes are done is based on use.
Okay,
In other words, I could go and get a piece of property zoned C2 10 years ago, okay?
and still
But
pay.
I'm growing beans on it, okay?
Okay.
So obviously, there's not a commercial building or an office or convenience store or whatever on that property. I'm farming beans. That's taxed as ag, based on use.
All right, well then, I still disagree with the way that's done, that, like Mr. Weeks said, all of a sudden in 71, like he said, there's a red map showing red as C2. Can you produce those minutes where the board, not trying to be ugly,
No,
Mr. Clark,
sir,
you
no.
know that. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this because it does mean, just like Mr. Eves said, that's residential out there. That's old country out there. That's why that property out there brings $25,000 to $50,000 an acre in book.
Right. Well, and I guess, and again, not to be cute or to you or to anybody
Yeah, I
else, but, can you or anybody else show this board any map or any minutes whatsoever where the Board of Supervisors ever put it as A1 or R1 or R2? I don't think that can be found either. And that's what I'm saying. is
No,
that
but-
From day one,
but-
from the inception of any map that
Right.
we can ever find is C2.
Well, I would think the burden's on the county to show that. I mean, I just, just have to disagree with you that a map can just be read and, I mean, who's to say that the Board of Supervisors don't come in here and take all of Cedar Hill as commercial one day?
I think they could probably put it on a zoning map as proposed, but
As they did in 61.
Right, but again, what I'm saying is, from the outset, there's never been any other designation on this property other than C2.
Well, all right, well, we just disagree with each other. Then I'm going to request that y'all MDOT has to do a traffic study out there. I have 4 grandchildren. 2 of them live out that way. One of them drives Highway 22, going to Madison Central every day. One that'll be driving in a year. I myself have seen too many wrecks right in that S-curve right there.
Yes, sir.
To not let that go without having a clear heart and conscience. I'll leave it to y'all to decide what you think we better do. Thank y'all, I appreciate it.
As far as that goes with Highway 22, I mean, obviously this commission doesn't have the ability or the authority to demand that MDOT do anything. Don't know that the Board of Supervisors does. And obviously, look, if this is approved today, or if this is denied today, it'll go up to the Board of Supervisors.
But
we are a recommendation.
Well, that's what I've just, and if for some reason this board feels that that's the way to go to approve it, what is the appeal process, or is there an appeal process, or you just call and set it up for the Board of Supervisors?
So if this, and I'm not trying to be your attorney, but I can certainly explain the process of our ordinance to anybody. Anyone that is aggrieved by a decision of this commission has 14 days from the date of the decision to appeal the decision of this board to the Board of Supervisors.
In writing or?
Yes, sir.
Or telephone? In writing, okay.
They would just send an email to Scott would suffice for that, is that you want to appeal the decision of this commission to the board. And you have 14 days from the date of the decision to do that. If that is the case, the Board of Supervisors will be notified, and they will set a public hearing date for the appeal hearing in front of them.
Okay.
If no one appeals our decision today, and I'm talking about either one, if the developer's unhappy with our decision, if you guys are unhappy with our decision, this is for anybody. If nobody does anything about our decision today, it will go to the Board of Supervisors for their first meeting in February? Yeah. Right? Yeah, okay. For approval. If either party is unhappy with the decision of the Board of Supervisors at that point, you have 10 days to file a notice of appeal, and the circuit court acts as the appellate board for the decision of the Board of Supervisors. Is that responsive?
All right, well, I'll finish with this, as I've heard so many times in circuit court over there. People are standing up there. I'll just throw myself to the mercy of the court and ask for forgiveness. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Look, and I want to say too, I know this is a very important decision for a lot of people and for the developer. Thank you all for your civility and the way that you have conducted yourselves. I know that you're there's a lot of emotion involved here, but it's not always the case when people come up here and express their opinions politely and civilly. Everyone involved has done so, and that makes our job a lot easier and a lot more palatable. So thanks to everyone involved for,
I might ask the board, is there anybody else here in favor of the service station?
I think we've got Mr. Woodridge as the architect,
Right.
and Miss Sonia Betty is the owner, developer.
And any that are opposed to it? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Any questions?
We may have some other people like to speak.
If you don't mind. Mr. Chairman and board members, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I'll be very brief. Sheriff Trowbridge has covered all aspects of it. I'm Dwayne Moak. I live a couple of miles east of Flora off Highway 22. We've been out there since 1995 and have enjoyed the country life out there for a long time, raising our kids, and it's a very pleasant area to live. Flora, I've been involved in law enforcement for over 30 years. Part of the time I was chief of police in Flora, worked with the Madison County Sheriff's Department, also worked with the state alcoholic beverage control's chief of enforcement. And I've been a lot of years in the state of Mississippi. I've seen a lot of variety of issues throughout the state of Mississippi. And in this particular situation, I've seen several things too. Number one, that this was a fine place to raise a family out of seeing a lot of areas in the state of Mississippi. It's a safe area. It is an area that is poised to grow and is growing. And there are, in my opinion, three basic commercial areas that are servicing that area out there. I think they've been brought to your attention before, mainly at Kearney Park, the town of Flora, and the newly developed town of Livingston. The area around this particular site is purely residential. And this would be a distinct change in that traffic area, as well as just the fact of the aesthetics, the interaction with the other people in the community. It would be just a dramatic change from what the area experiences now. Regarding what Sheriff Trowbridge said about the accidents and those type things, that intersection is extremely dangerous. I don't know when MDOT would or if ever would consider revamping that intersection. But I would be glad to put any of you in my vehicle at any time, and we'd go spend about 10 minutes at that intersection, and I guarantee you, you would have some oohs and ahs. I came through this morning coming up here, as a matter of fact, and I had to slam on brakes from a vehicle pulling out because of the angle of that intersection. What's going to be done here will increase that traffic. There have been accidents as recent as the last few weeks ago at that intersection. Any addition of traffic, whether it be more homes or a business, of course, is going to situate that situation. But when you put a commercial facility that is attracting or will attract numerous vehicles coming down Livingston Vernon Road, coming down 22, more people turning off of 22 to get in to access that facility, I think you're setting yourself up for a failure, for a hurtful situation. When Livingston, Flora, and Kearney Park have facilities to accomplish what's trying to be accomplished here. It's actually, this is actually taking away from those places by doing this. If you look at the economic issue, Flora is growing, and I know that from being chief over there. Flora is growing. The town is expanding. The community around Flora is growing. And I think we need to support those growing areas, and that they need to grow in a controlled manner that's good for the whole community. The town of Livingston, it hopefully will continue to grow, and has the potential to grow. Kearney Park area is growing. So my point is, if you just look at the economics, placing this here, you're actually sliding somewhat those places that are already in direction to grow. And maybe a weird way to look at it, but you're dividing that pie up smaller. And I would want to support Flora. I'd want it to grow. I don't want anything to hurt against Flora growing. Don't want to have anything to impact Livingston growing. So I think from that standpoint, this would be a negative economic thing to those communities that are already invested in growing. The safety issue is paramount, and the aesthetics of the community are paramount. And I would appreciate your consideration in all of those areas. Not against economic development. My wife and I own 2 businesses, so it's not like where I'm against the business community. But sometimes you don't want to place something in an environment that, in my opinion, the environment doesn't fit. So, thank you very much.
Good morning. Morning. My name is Mike Prestige, and I live at 170 Anderson Station Road. It's a Flora mailing address. But I won't beat on the same drum that the previous gentlemen have done as far as the reasons for or against a C-store there. But what I will say is that if you approve this store to go in, there will be others that have an interest in the same area, and that area will begin to grow. As a result, the traffic situation is going to be worse. Everyone out there, you've heard it this morning, has a real concern about the traffic safety, and it's a huge concern. And like Mr. Moak, if anybody wants to come out, I'd be more than happy to sit there with you and we'll watch traffic a little bit. We talked about Highway 22, and it's great that the state is looking at that, but sometimes the wheels turn slow. I mean, I think I heard the study was done in 2020 or 21 or something like that. So far there hasn't been anything done. I hadn't heard any news about it. But there's also a second part of that, and that has to do with Livingston Vernon Road and Stokes Road. All of that comes together at one point, and it just so happens it's right in this double curve. And I would suggest to you that not only discuss this with the state, but discuss it with the county traffic folks as well, because that's where a lot of this traffic is going to occur. And the justification not to do anything on 22 will be because, well, all the entrances and exits are on Livingston Vernon Road. Well, that is all so close together that it really all works together, so it needs to be taken into account. So I would suggest to you that get both entities together to review that and seriously consider it, because like Mr. Tobridge said, there's going to be some problems. And I just pray and hope nobody gets hurt in the process. Cedar Hill Roads is just close to that, probably within a quarter of a mile. And from what I understand, there's already been a fatality there for some of that same reason. And we don't want to encourage that. So what I'm saying is if the C-store goes in, more businesses will come, more traffic will come. The area out there is growing. People are trying to get away from the city environment and get into a rural setting and enjoy the benefits of that. Just as a housekeeping item, I went online to look at the drawings for the store, and a barn popped up. After I got over my panic mode, I saw that it was another venue that got in there by mistake. And I don't recall whether it was a link from your meeting minutes or the board's meeting minutes or something to that. But anyway, you might want to check that just to make sure the correct drawings are up there. On the zoning matter, this morning I made a formal request to Mr. Weeks that a review of the zoning for the two parcels of property we're talking about, the one for the C-store as well as the one adjacent to that, be reviewed, and we'd like to get a written, some kind of written letter stating what you found. And if it is zoned commercial, we'd like a copy of the documentation, or at least show us where to get to it so we can see it as well. We'd like to put all that to bed. We don't want to have to keep coming up here every time you guys have a meeting and talk about zoning of those two properties. We'd like to go ahead and get it resolved and get it behind us. So, and Mr. Tobridge has already given you a lot of information on that and how we feel about that as well. I think that was the main things I had. We'd like for you to really consider this before you do this, and to keep in mind the traffic safety and the zoning, and those are two critical items that the community, not just me and not just the folks that are here this morning, but there's a large community out there that has those same concerns. So I'd like for you to take those things under advisement. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name's Gary Massey. We live down the road on Livingston Vernon there. And I wanted to clarify some things just so I understand clearly what's going on. Everybody's expressed concerns about the traffic, and even the developer has gotten someone to do a study to make some recommendations to MDOT about the traffic. Is that correct?
They were actually done prior to this.
Daniel, come up here where we can
So
hear
this
you.
was just something you picked up from previously. And their recommendations, correct? And MDOT's under no obligation of the state of Mississippi to implement any of those recommendations, if I understand that correct. Because it's their decision whether or not they do road improvements or do any mitigation to traffic. So theoretically, without doing any mitigation to the traffic situation, this could be approved and built, and we would have an attractive nuisance sitting out there with the same road setup that we currently have, and enhancing the potential danger for the, traffic. And that's my only concern. Am I correct in assuming that this could be built before any mitigation was done?
Yes.
Okay, that to me causes great concern, because just like everybody else, they're driving today, they've got so many distractions as it is, and then you create another distraction at something that hasn't been mitigated. It's just the potential for disaster is just there. I mean, school buses go through there. I mean, it's potential for a lot of problems. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Chair.
And I won't come back up here again, but I wanted to read, Clark, section 17.1.15 and section 17.1.17. And if y'all can read it while I'm talking, or I'll read it aloud to you, whichever you prefer, Dr. Rouser. Basically, it says here, starting right here, that 17.1.17, zoning regulations, restrictions, and boundaries from time to time may be amended, I guess like what you're talking about, supplemented, changed, modified, or related, or appealed, at least 15 days notice of hearing on such amendment, supplement, change, modification, and appeal be given notice, an official paper or paper of general circulation in such municipality or county specifying a time and place of hearing. That's 17.1.17. 17.1.15 states a governing authority of each municipality and county shall provide for the manner in which comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, or capital improvement program shall be determined, established, and enforced, and from time to time amended, supplemented, or changed. However, no such plan, ordinance, including zoning boundaries, regulations, or program shall become effective until after a public hearing. In relation thereto, at which parties of interest and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard. At least 15 days' notice of time and place of such hearing shall be published in an official paper or a paper of general circulation in such municipal or county. Do we have a publication where the county changed this?
I do not. I cannot, and in our research, we have not found that, whether that was done in 1960, whatever. No, sir, I do not have that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I still think we're erring on the side of not ready yet for this to come to Stokes Road. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
I will say that we do have, I'm guessing and I'm asking, we do have that for zoning maps and official zoning maps that have been adopted in the interim, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the board minutes. And
So, for example, our most recent ordinance is December of 2019, when they would have adopted an official zoning map at that time. Yes, sir, we do have that.
Okay, but
And previous years, prior.
was a public hearing getting where they put it in the paper where it was 15 days notice where they rezoned that red? Was that, do you have copies of that?
I can't speak what happened in the 60s.
We can tell you what happened.
Wait, Scott, you said in the 70s when that red, I'm sorry.
Come back up here, sorry.
I believe you said the last time that red popped up was 1971, is what was off record, I believe, when the red appeared on the map.
Well, that's the
I'm just
official
saying whether it was
zoning map.
61 or 71, and I believe you're going to find that you said 71's when that red appeared on there, that I'm asking for a copy of where it was put in the paper. That's all.
You want the very first ever notice in the paper that we can find.
Well, I want the first evidence of where that area was given a 15-day notice to do a public hearing. Yes, sir.
I think we can probably get you that. I don't know how far back it would go. Whether it's, December of 2019 or 2005 or whatever. Anytime we adopt an ordinance or approve an official zoning map, there'd be notice in the paper, right,
Yeah,
Scott?
correct.
So what I'm saying
But,
is we'll
Mr. Clark,
find
can you do
the
that?
earliest one that we can
Can you
find.
do that in the past after it's already done? It says here that it shall be done 15 days, at least 15 days notice of time shall be published. And I believe you got to do that before you do it, don't you? So that it gives the people time, says here, give the people time to have a hearing?
Maybe we're talking two different languages here, but I'm telling you that every time we adopt or bring forth an official zoning map, that's done. Now, can I find the one that was done in 1961? Probably not.
Well, I think you're going to find the map that, and if you'll check the, last time I was up here, Mr. Weeks said it was a 1971 map is when that occurred. And if I'm reading correct, the Board of Supervisors, if they did change it, and it says they can amend it, should give them the public 15 days to have a public hearing over it before they did it. I would ask for that piece of paper.
We'll get you everything that we can possibly find, and I would say too that you're correctly reading the state statute, but I don't know when that was adopted either.
Yeah.
When that came to be law.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. This thing's so far up in the air, I just don't know how y'all gonna go forward with it right now. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Thank you, Board.
All right, I'd like to say that, my client bought a piece of property, maps show that it's zone C2. And I guess in 61, when the county designated some areas that they thought should be commercial, and this was one of the areas that they, I guess, put a green dot on. Somebody did build a gas station on this site, a commercial. They used it for commercial. I don't know in 61 if residents around was against it, but they used it for the years that that gas station was in business, worked as a commercial. It was a local gas station that serves the community. I'm sure it was owned by a family, by a family.
It was ag one only. It was for ag business only. It was only ag gas.
But it was used, I assume it was still a commercial piece of property. So, but my client, they're a family-oriented group. They're going to run it as a family-oriented. It's not going to be some big conglomerate gas station that's going to show up. They're looking to serve the community. This board, I know today is not supposed to be a public hearing. It's kind of being run as a public hearing. But this board's supposed to look at our drawings, our design, our project. Have we met the requirements of C2 zoning? And we have. You know, we meet all the setbacks. We meet we meet all the requirements for the C2, and we're asking for approval for that. You know, there is a time for the community to address with the Board of Supervisors any issues that they may have on today's, as you spoke, on today's decision. But today is not really supposed to be a public hearing, and so we're asking that, you know, for approval from our site. On the traffic issue, Mr. Kaiser did a study. He's a traffic engineer, and he works in the Madison County area a lot. I assume it was Madison County that probably asked him to do this survey, and he's given it to MDOT. And if it's as big a concern, and I'm not saying that it's not might be a problem, but if MDOT would have had any concern whatsoever after seeing the report, then they would have made. I feel like if they felt it was a safety issue, that they should address it, and they haven't. So, I mean, maybe bringing bringing some activity to the area will step MDOT up to revisit it. But again, we're asking for approval for the C2 design, our site design. And if I can answer any other questions, I'd be glad to.
Have any other questions from the commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that site plan submitted by the developer be approved.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second that it be approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, so it is.
Thank you very much.
Was that a unanimous aye? Okay.
Yes. Motion for February date.
Y'all not adjourned yet? Sorry.
Sheriff, I'm gonna attach this to the minutes if I'm assuming that since you distributed it, you'd like that. Yes. Okay.
Like we asked, if you would, get me a copy of where the security was.
We'll give you the first possible thing we can possibly find.
February 8th.
February
Yeah.
8th.
Motion. Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Wait. How'd we do the February meeting? Who?
Yes, sir.
Gene, you
I
moved.
move February 8th.
Second.
Yes.
We're gonna have to move you down here closer.
I know.
You're too quiet.
I know.